All right, Mono Sanbonani, hello, how's it? And shalom, goedemiddag, good people. We're having a bumper day, almost interviews back to back. The one I will be honest, I really was waiting for is right now. Welcome to it. This is vlog 128 as we continue that conversation around how you, the ordinary South African, begin to push back against the draconian measure that is the lockdown and the most asinine grouping of politicians that are the National Coronavirus Command Council. Where have you ever heard in a what should be functional liberal democracy do you hear the notion of a command council? Are we a command society now? What happened to our freedoms, our rights, and our liberties? Well, that's the question we're going to unpack briefly in this interview with the CEO of the Business League, or die Sakeliga, as hulle sê in Afrikaans, Prof van Piet le Roux, who is the CEO, pardon me, of the organization Sakeliga. Before I bring him on, please make sure you hit that like button. It really does help spread these interviews and really the show to a wider audience. Hit that like button, please. Make sure you do that. We're going to have this conversation as Sakeliga have actually taken some legal action against the ongoing lockdown and really, to be specific, the state of disaster. They've been very creative around that. But hey, don't hear it from me. Let me bring Piet onto the screen right now. There he is, the CEO of Sakeliga, Piet le Roux. Piet, good evening. Good afternoon, and welcome to Vlog 128.
Hi, good afternoon, Sakeliga. Great to join you.
Awesome, brother. We're going to be brief because really I want you to take the center stage insofar as detailing what I know South Africans are itching to hear from, which is how do we fight back against this? And really, an organization like yours that's leading the charge in that regard, what have you guys done so far?
Sakeliga, with the support of its members, have been helping our members navigate lockdown, build pressure against it. And I think we're already now at a point where we think a legal challenge can succeed. And the legal challenge that we are aiming for and that we've notified the government and relative state functionaries of is the following. There can only be a national state of disaster declared in South Africa if there is actually a disaster. And the basis on which how the national government can say whether it is a disaster or not, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, she can only declare a national disaster if the National Disaster Management Center, the head of that center, which is a Dr. Tau, if he classifies there to be a national disaster. Now, back in March 2020, that's exactly what he did. He said, I'm classifying this, the threat of COVID-19, as a national disaster. And then Dr. Dlamini-Zuma went and promulgated on top of that the state of disaster, and now we're still in that state. But we're not in the same state of affairs as we were 2 years ago, and it's questionable the measures the government took back then, and it's questionable to what extent that classification was acceptable, etc. All of that to the side. Now, 2 years later, we're demanding a reassessment of that classification and a rescindment, taking that back and cancelling, acknowledging that there is no longer the facts on the ground to justify a disaster classification. And that's the argument we're taking. And we're giving the government until the 28th of January to reassess and rescind that classification. And then Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, whatever she wants to do without the classification by Dr. Tau, with that head of center, there cannot be a state of disaster.
Absolutely. And again, this is an incredibly clever approach to doing this because, again, I say it's clever insofar as it's actually rational. The very thing that we have not seen this government, or the very method, rather, that we have not seen this government employ, which you would expect, Piet, as a government, a functioning government, what should be a functional government, it should be making its decisions based on ration. But that seemingly, pardon me, hasn't been the case for the past 2 years as ordinary people like you and me, and really the business community in particular, have suffered.
Now look, the facts on the ground today is not they're not the same as they were 2 years ago. And how possibly
Absolutely.
can we continue as if we have the same state of affairs?
Mm.
So this is very typical of government. Once there's a new, once states and government and politicians get hold of a new power, and they want to keep it in place because it's convenient to be able to notify for instant compliance, as the president often said, with immediate effect, new
Mm.
regulations, new dictates. But that's not the case. And then, moreover, we're all aware of what's happening at NetLAC. There are some
Mm.
business organization and lobby groups. I think a small minority of businesses actually want to push this for a national mandate for vaccines. As long as
Mm.
the state of disaster is maintained, it creates a sense of that it's necessary. But the fact is, there
Mm.
is no disaster worthy of being classified as a national disaster in South Africa. So we can stop pretending that we need to take these extraordinary measures that deeply go against what we have come to accept and what we should claim to be our freedoms and our rights and our obligations.
Absolutely. Pete, as we taper off and end this conversation, I just want to bring a quick statement, then the final question, really. Pete, often the detractors of organizations like Sakeliga will say things like, oh, well, there you go again. Sakeliga taking the position of the big business elites in this country. But in reality, this is something when I do my interviews on the street, small business individuals, whether it's that mama selling fat cooks on the road, or that small chap who is at the, funny enough, I'm sitting in front of an industrial hub here in my township of Umlazi, where small guys who are saying, look, I'm a metal worker, and this lockdown has absolutely killed my business. You're echoing their sentiments, ironically, versus what has been corporate, and again, pockets of corporate South Africa who've quite happily, glibly gone along with politicians on this one. Because again, the power to make arbitrary decisions on the one hand has been suiting big corporates who have deeper pockets than the small business guy.
Now, look, the state of disaster in South Africa is the disaster. And there are pockets of organizations, sometimes in corporate sector, sometimes outside of corporate sector, and they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
lobby government to implement a national vaccine mandate that will restrict public life and actually make businesses the policemen and the enforcement agents. It will instrumentalize business to become the enforcement agents of the state. But we have also seen big companies saying that we're not going to approach this. For example, Momentum, a life insurance company, came out and said, well, it's not our culture. We're not going to force vaccination, not even in our company. And with that, I guess they're also saying we're not going to support this in a national mandatory sense. Now, at Sakeliga, the very important thing is we must respect and tolerate differences in approaches with different companies. And we're not
That's
prescribing to
right.
companies what they should do and encourage and not encourage in their businesses. But we are going to defend the ability for companies to apply discretion in their own circumstances, and we're going to defend their independence, and so that they do not become agents of the state.
Absolutely. And that right there is the freedom message. Pete, a final question, therefore. How do people get involved in this? Someone is listening right now, maybe a small business organization is going, oh my goodness, yes, please. How do I get involved? And really, how do I also join Sakeliga?
Yeah, if you join Sakeliga, you help build a state-proof and independent business community that serves the interest of a flourishing society. It doesn't mean that we're going to try and help you run your business better. That's what you're in a position to do. It's your way to contribute to a business community that makes the society a flourishing society. So go to sakeliga.co.za, join us, follow us on Twitter, sakeliga.co.za. We'd love to have you as a member.
Absolutely. That, of course, is the CEO of Sakeliga, Piet le Roux. You can please join their organization, as he gave details earlier on just now. Just go to, their website and really get involved, raise your voice, support organizations like these as they fight for your freedoms and your liberty, and really the key word that Pete used, your independence as a business owner. Who makes decisions about your business? Is it you, the business owner, or some official or politician out there in the ether that is the political elites? Big support from our channel to the boys at Sakeliga, and as we say, voorspoed in Afrikaans. Thank you very much for watching this show. You're watching me as I rally these chaps who are fighting for your liberties. Make sure you get involved in whatever capacity, whatever individual or organization, support them as they fight for your liberty. With that being said, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to put that information on the screen once again as to how you can get involved with Sakeliga. There it is, their website, sakeliga.co.za. Make sure, please, that you head on over there and support the chaps. Hit that like button, please, on the way out. It helps spread the show. I super appreciate that. And as I say goodbye, a reminder, tonight, 7:30 p.m., the Big Daddy Liberty Show. I am in conversation with Gideon Hubert of Paratus.info as we unpack the issue. Are South African police becoming the biggest threat to our safety and security? This, of course, off the back of the near 160 firearms that were stolen or gone missing from the Norwood police station in Johannesburg. Are we having a situation where police are becoming a bigger threat to our safety than the actual criminals themselves? Join me at 7:30 for that conversation here on the BDL Show. Until then, a reminder, as I always say, never trust a commie.